Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose, and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life. Each and every one of us has an opportunity to look at life differently when we hear in our head that life should be a little different than this, or I deserve a little bit more, or I'm meant to do something more than this. And when you pay attention to those wake up calls, when you pay attention and use them as a moment of choice to step further into who you are and really discover what's missing, the end item of that is to find yourself and to really understand why you're here on this earth. And when that happens, what you do is you uncover more and more of the unlimited possibilities of in the universe, make them probabilities, and start changing your life in ways that enhance who you are, bring fulfillment, bring peace, bring excitement, bring more joy. It's really helping you uncover and manifest the great things in life. I'm with Jasmin Tak Shum today, and Jasmin came to America from Macau at age 16, graduated college with double majors in math and economics, and went on to obtain Associate of the Society of Actuaries while working full time. However, the excitement of achievement wore off, revealing a sadness and emptiness that her heart could no longer ignore. She started her soul searching journey by moving overseas multiple times only to realize that happiness had always been within. Jasmin now uses her experience to help women harness their power so they too can live a life with clarity, happiness, fulfillment, and peace. Jasmin Tak Shum, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
Oh, yes. I am so excited. Thank you so much, Vince, for inviting me on here.
You're welcome. I'm excited too. I've known you from a distance for just a short period of time and followed you on Facebook and I'm really excited about what you're bringing to the world. But Jasmin, the bio doesn't do you justice in any way. Could you share a little bit more with us?
Yeah, for me, I always call myself a permanent learner. I never stop learning. I was just born with such a curious mind, and I always ask a lot of questions growing up. But the thing is that um, it wasn't really well received in the culture that I grew up in, and at the time of the time that I was growing up. So I just kind of shut it down and I bury it so much. And but I still love learning, and I think that every day, I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to explore the world a little bit more, just make it to be a little bit better than what it was in the morning.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me ask you this, as you shared, especially coming to America from another country. I know the culture in America is really based on kind of being pushed by our parents. Were you pushed by your parents into, math and economics, or is it something that you loved?
You know, it was yes and no. My parents, on the kind of contrary to the typical view of the Asian parents, they are not tiger moms and dragon daddies. So they're pretty relaxed. They never really say anything that you have to be number one in the class, although I did. I think I had a couple of times. But also, I had failed. In my seventh grade, I have failed my Chinese history. And then in my ninth grade, I failed Chinese literature. They never really yelled at me. So my parents are kind of not the norm. But at the same time, they always kind of put in my mind that, you have to go to college, you have to go to college. And especially my mom, she was like, you have to be able to support yourself financially, so you don't have to be dependent on anyone else growing up. So that has been pretty ingrained in me, that okay, so sitting around, on the couch, and it's just not an option. Yeah.
I'll share with you, I had a tiger grandfather.
Ooh.
He pushed me to be number one, and pushed me to go to school, and pushed me to be the best, and to be this and to be that. So I experienced that other side of it, where I was pushed, and four home runs and three other hits in the defensive play of the game, and I was still not good enough. So I actually came from the other side of that, and it's been very beneficial to me later in life, but detrimental at other times, for
Oh
sure, along the
yeah.
way. One thing I want to ask you before we go on, just because I'm sure many people aren't familiar with it, what's the Society of Actuaries?
So what we do is, there are actually, right now there are three major industry that we go into. So one is like insurance in general. So life insurance, property insurance company. So for people that go into that route, a lot of times they will set the pricing of the insurance products, different insurance products, because actuaries, for what we do is we deal with probabilities, and we deal with mortalities. So for me, I actually went into the pension route, which is like a kind of like a dying industry. And the new industry that they came out is the risk management. So again, it's probabilities and probability of different things, right? So it's to help hedge the risk.
So double majors, associate in the society, and there was something missing. Could
There
you
was
share
something
that
missing.
wake up call with us?
Yes, so I don't have this dramatic wake up call that a lot of people have. So what happened was, I graduated with double major at the age of 21, and I went on into HR consulting firm, being in the pension industry. Um, I study, every day for 7 years, Monday through Sunday at the coffee shop till 10 p.m. at night, while working overtime. Not overtime, full time, what I meant. And so by the age of 26, I got my ASA, Associate of Society of Actuaries credential. I got married actually in the same month. And later on during that year, my husband and I bought a brand new home in downtown. So all that, it's beautiful, right? On the external world, it's everything that everybody was trying to achieve for. And my husband was an engineer at that time. So we both have professional jobs. And by the age of 28, I had my first child. So before the age 30, I have achieved quite a bit. And I just felt the sense of emptiness. From then on, it's like I check off everything, on the list, the path that has set in front of me. I've done it all. I mean, of course, I probably wanted to make more money and all the stuff, but I'm like, there was moments when I was by myself, I was thinking to myself, like, this cannot be, this is not the life that I want for the next 40 years of my life. Something it's missing. Like, I felt really empty. I felt lost. Um, from my friends' eyes, I was quite an accomplisher, an achiever. But there was something I just couldn't explain. Like, I'm like, what is it? What is wrong with me that wanted to have more than what I have now? Am I that ungrateful?
Mm-hmm.
But then there is a, a voice telling me inside that I'm meant to do something more. I'm meant to do something different. Do you know what it was? So a few years later, a few years of internal struggle, which was pretty painful, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I told my husband, I said, you know what? I just want to move back home. want to move back to Hong Kong. I thought that the misery is because of I didn't have my family near next to me, because my husband and I were by ourselves. We have friends, but there's only so much you can ask for friends, when it comes to when you're sick, babysitting your baby and all that stuff. They are busy too. They have their family to take care of. So we didn't really have a network. And I was like, maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe that was the key to my misery. So maybe allow me to move back home. And he was so supportive of me. He said, go, find a job and I'll come. Get there. I spent a year there. I didn't have the guts to go find a job because, it's like, well, it's going to be the same thing as what I have in the US, but 10 times worse, because they expect so much from you at work. And I was like, well, actually by that time I have 2 kids. And then I'm like, I don't know, if I can just take off and go to work. So I just sat around for a year and still miserable. I see my family all the time. We go out to eat and we talk, and I felt really great, cozy and being supported, but that hole was still there. It was not, it didn't feel it. It didn't feel it. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was, halfway through, 6 months through, when I was in Hong Kong, my husband actually got a job in Saudi Arabia. And the reason he got the job is because it's halfway closer to Asia. So we get to see each other more often. He did it just all because of me. And a few months down, and I'm like, well, I just don't think it's fair for my kids to be away from their daddy for so long. So I have to make a choice, because apparently being closer to my family didn't fix the problem. So I decided to move out there with him. It was an easy solution because, again, I am running away from the environment that I thought it was causing my misery. Because he has a job, we have a place to live, the kids have school to go to. It's an easy way for me to say yes. So I move out there, spent 3 years over there. Again, I was still feeling the same. And I was like, oh, so it's not really the environment. It's not really the people surrounding me. It's me. So that's when I really have this huge aha moment. I was like, okay, so what is it in me that's causing me such pain and misery, the emptiness, the loss? So I really started looking into myself rather than running away after 3 different moves.
Right. The interesting thing is that in what Mary and I share with a lot of people, that we have these moment of choices, which are actually wake-up calls. And you had several. You just had what we would call a conscious wake-up call, knowing that there was something more that you were meant for, that's not the life that you wanted. Let me ask you this, because I think you're more the norm than you would imagine. When you first started realizing that there was something missing, is that why you moved towards getting your ASA certificate? Is that why? Did you start by looking on the outside there and then looking on the outside other places?
Yeah, I would say getting my ASA, it's a way for me to run away from my emotions. Looking back, right, having the hindsight, because I knew that when I was younger, even in the teenager years or even before then, I had those moments that's like, I want to say they are extreme self-hatred. I don't know what to do with myself. Like, it was so intense, the feeling that if the only way that I can describe it to you is to strip myself apart or running myself again, like into the wall. Like, it was those emotions. I just didn't know how to deal with it. And nobody ever taught me that how to handle your emotions. And it's this perception of the emotion that they're bad. Usually, when that intense, it's the negative ones that, we didn't know how to handle. It wasn't the happy-go-lucky, that type of emotions, right, that everybody can accept. And nobody had taught me, and I just thought it was such a bad thing to have these emotions, and I didn't know what to do with it. So the best solution I came up for myself at that time is to busy myself. And for some reason, because I just wasn't a very good in arts or writing and speech, that type of thing. Like math comes a lot more natural to me. So we basically, my parents and my uncle sat down and decide my major by elimination. What, I couldn't do arts, I couldn't do literature, what else is left, right? So math, a universal language, that I'm like, I should be okay with it. So I went in, I like a little bit of a challenge. And the great thing about getting that credential and studying for it, like for 7 years, is to numb me, to totally take me away and shield me from my emotions. Because the only moments left that it's free for me was the 2 minutes before I fell asleep at night, because I was so exhausted. Like it would just take like 90 seconds for me to knock out. So that was probably, looking back, that was the reason that I subconsciously picked the math major, which is concentration in the actuarial science.
So now it's several years down the road, 3 years in Saudi Arabia, and the realization came that it's not on the outside. Could you share with us how that realization came?
Yeah, because I realized no matter, so when I was in the US, I always have the excuse like, well, I have, excuse me, the language barrier, the culture is different than, how I was brought up. And then I went back to Hong Kong. And I was like, well, I kind of don't fit in, even though it was my mother tongue and all that stuff. Like, I'm just I felt like I became a hybrid, like I have a mixture of the Chinese background. And then, because I actually, at that time, I spent half the time in Asia growing up and half the time in the US. So it was actually equal amount of time. And so I felt like, I just couldn't call anywhere home, because I took in the better of the two cultures and kind of like forget about the little parts of it that I didn't like as much, or I didn't resonate as much. So by the time I get to Saudi Arabia, it was a huge melting pot, because we live in a compound with a bunch of expats and locals, and everybody was speaking like different languages, and many people don't, they English is their second language or their third language. So I was like, okay, so I should feel pretty blend in and fit into the culture, because everybody is from anywhere in the world that you can imagine, right? And then and nobody, I mean, it was only really rare for people to have families there. Everybody would just, friends became family, and everybody was very supportive of each other. But then I still felt that loneliness, that um, like an outsider feeling, that I don't feel fit in. And I was like, okay, so that really is not the people, it's not the environment. What is it? And I finally realized that it was just me, that what kicked in was years ago, I have my first reading by the psychic medium, and he told me once, and right off the bat, that you are an old soul. And he told me that you don't really fit into um, to the rest of the crowd that much. And so that finally sank in with me, that I think that's just my nature and my personality, that I'm just not quite on the same page as the rest of the crowd. And I started to really hone in and look into, why is it, what is it that makes me, like, what do I like to do, and so over there, a lot of the ladies are stay-at-home mom. In Saudi Arabia, the husband works. I mean, of course, there's exceptions. And so over time, they have a lot of morning coffee, tea, parties and all this stuff. And I finally realized, to a certain degree, as much as I like to meet new people, I'm like, no, I just don't like to talk about the bus schedule, where to shop, what to eat, like the kids' activities. Like, it's not fulfilling to me. I want to talk about the meaning of life. I want to talk about what they are struggling with, which nobody wants to talk about.
Mhm.
Everybody want to put on a happy face, where they travel to, where's their next stop, where did they go get some more pork, and things like that. And after a while, it just get old to me, and people are like, just come on, just come, we have a chit chat. I was like, no, I think I would just rather stay home and, do the things that I wanted to do that fulfilling to me.
So, as you move then into this new work that you're doing, what was the process of that? What I see from what you've shared so far, it's really you had to make some changes in you, and the changes that you made in you then became something that you wanted to share with the world. So, I just wanted to have you share with the audience the imagination, the experience of that, and how you went through it, because so many people, we at Imagine Miracles believe that all these things that we're living in life and all the experiences and all the circumstances bring us gifts that we can finally share our divine intent, our gift with the world.
Yes.
So you're a perfect example of that,
Hmm.
and I'd just like you to kind of share what you felt your process was to help people.
Yes. So through my own experience, I have noticed, and I observe a lot too. I'm a very keen observer. So what I have noticed and come to conclusion is that we don't know enough about ourselves when we're growing up. Like, there was, I was always saying that I spent 18 years at school, learning like a lot of things, like from science to biology to math to physics, everything under the sun. However, when I graduated from college, I went on a first date with my husband, and he asked me like three questions. What's your favorite movie? What do you like to eat? And what's your favorite song? I couldn't answer any of that, because the way I was brought up is, it really doesn't matter what I like and what I prefer. It's about how to fit in, how to please people. And so I never took the time to really go in and examine and self reflect, like, what are the things that are fulfilling? What are the things that I prefer? Like, if I have all those money in the world, how would I spend my time? Those are never the topics that I would spend time to study, because I'm always about external achievement, being the recognition, being validated. So that's one thing that I come to conclusion is, I knew nothing about myself, and I better get up and start knowing and learning about who I am. So that was a big part of my spiritual journey, my self-discovery journey, is to really tune in to see, who am I? Like, my soul knows who I am, but I had to uncover that. I have to be connected to that again. So bridging the connection again, and to be able to hear the voices inside of me. Now, the second, I found that I spent a lot of time doing and working on is to transform my fear. I felt like I had a lot of emotional blockages. You can say from this lifetime, but I felt like I have a lot that I inherited from different generations, actually, also from my past life. And I now actually have images of who I was, maybe a couple of lifetimes ago. And I knew that I still carry those traumatic emotional residues from that. So I actually spend a lot of time every day work on my, what is it today that it's hindering me or blocking me or masking me from my true self. So I believe that if we can remove that mask, right? So I can kind of see us as, you can say, diamond, a piece of gold, a piece of gem that's been buried under the ground for a very long time. And when you unearth it, you kind of have to spend time cleaning it, taking off the soil, the mud, and all the things that's on top of it before you can get to that gem. And so that's what I see. And when we polish it, when we spend time, looking at it and deciding which angle and facet, how do we cut it and how do we polish it, that's when our light will truly shine out. And so those are the two big things it's the pillars of my work, because when we truly know who we are, then we can show up in the world with our highest expression, because we are living in in this physical world, in the duality that one cannot be without the other. So what's inside will reflect on the outside. And so the other thing is, like I said, is really owning who we are, at the core level. So when we're out in the world, we can truly shine and be who we are without any concern, judgment, and worries from others. We just be who we are, because each of us are really unique and we're precious and we're enough just to be who we are.
Awesome. Could you share a little bit about your facets and how you brilliantly show up in the world as the gem that you are?
Yeah, I have one great example. So I mentioned earlier that I have a very a natural curious mind, and I have a lot of questions, but I knew when I was growing up that the adults don't like to be challenged. And at that time, there's no Google, there's no internet. At least where I live, there's not like, oh, Google it. Because my daughter would ask me now, like, what is this? I was like, I don't know, but you can Google it on your own. So at that time, the only people that I can ask are the adults or the teachers, but they don't like to be challenged because they don't know everything. And so I just always had to kind of shut it down. And I actually see my that tray asking question, it's a bad tray. And I actually didn't like it. And I remember after I graduated at my first job, one of my coworker, she actually said that you are very inquisitive. And I took it as a really a bad comment. And I'm like, ooh, maybe I'm asking too many questions. But then the thing is, if I don't ask the questions, then I don't get it. And if I don't get it, it's hard for me to do the job, because I kind of have to have the big picture. So then, I just kind of keep my mouth quiet, low down, and I just pretend that I understand it, even though I didn't. And so in conference calls and meetings, I was like, okay, I guess I get it. Anybody have questions? No raised. And after the meeting, I would ask my coworkers, and then I was like, what did the boss say? What did he mean? And they would say, I don't know. I'm like, what? Like, you don't know. Like, I thought English, is not my first language, and I have the excuse, I have the reason to not understand the whole thing. Is like they don't either. And I'm like, so from then on, I started like, you know what? Forget it. Forget about worrying, being dumb or being stupid. I'm not asked the questions anyway, because I know one is going to help me, and the other, it's going to help everyone else in the room. So I started asking a lot of questions, and I put my ego aside. And when I get clear, I can do the job, and I can tell others how to do the job as well. And that has really, it's a great example, because I used to hate that part of me, to be accepting that part of me, to now I love that part of me, because I felt like the more questions that I ask, the more that it allows me to think for myself and able to see the situation. Because now that my coworkers were saying, my friends, like, you actually kind of your questions allow us to think things deeper. So that's one of the facets through the transformation. I mean, there's many more. It's like I used to be triggered a lot, and I would pick fights with my husband about at least once a month or so. And now through the transformation of my own, it's like, no, there is no point of fighting. I am peaceful on the inside. Therefore, I don't have to act it out on the outside. And so that's some of the new facets of me, if you say it that way. Yeah.
Jasmin, I'm so sorry that we don't have more time together because we're just getting to the story, and I know you're bringing so much to the world. Could you share just one parting piece of guidance to help the men and the women of the imagination?
Yes, I had this teacher of mine over a decade ago. He always closed his podcasts and interviews with, "You are enough." So I'm going to borrow that. I'm going to say to your audience that every one of you are enough just because of who you are. And because you are enough, you are worthy and deserving to go step into your dreams, to make it happen, to fulfill it and make it into a reality. The reason I say that is because I look around, I see a lot of people don't actually take the time out to dream, to daydream their dreams, to set their goals, because they think that, who am I? Who am I to do that? My dream is too big. It's laughable, but it's not. Every one of us, it's enough, and we are deserving, and it's up to us to make that happen.
That's why the podcast is called The Miracle You, and each and every person is enough. Thank you for sharing that with us. Jasmin, could you tell us how everyone can get in touch with you?
Yes, I actually have a blueprint and a workbook. It's called the Unshakable Soul Foundation that I created for your audience. I would encourage them to download it. It's an 11-page. So I put in a lot of questions to help you, to kind of inspire you and prompt you to start thinking at a deeper level about the person that you are, the being that you are. So hopefully that would help you to get a jump start on that. So I encourage everybody to download it. And then the second thing is, because my website is currently under constructions right now, so the most direct way for your audience to get in touch with me is through email, support@thegreatthinksinlife.com, and schedule a complimentary clarity session with me so we can get clear. I can help you to get clear on what is your next best step in order for you to start creating your dream life.
Thank you. That's very generous, Jasmin. So all that information I'll make available on Jasmin's show page. Just go to themiracleyou.com, look for Jasmin's episode, and all that information will be available. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story and how you found yourself in bringing the miracle of you to this world.
Well, thank you, Vince, for inviting me. And it's such a pleasure to be able to have a personal conversation with you and be on your podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. On behalf of Mary, my wife and business partner, and the entire team at Imagine Miracles, have a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleyou.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 Mind Awakening Steps Toward Your Unique Purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleyou.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.